Camila Cardoso. Camila Cardoso's breakout year should have kept the spotlight on her WNBA ascent. Instead, she's caught in the crossfire of something much bigger. When Project B, a secretive but clearly powerful new league, quietly followed her on social media, it did more than stir curiosity. It hinted at negotiations. But what makes Cardoso's inclusion particularly striking is Project B's strategy, targeting players with global appeal. As a Brazilian rising star with crossover influence, she fits perfectly into the league's ambition to go international. And her potential switch could be the clearest sign yet that the WNBA is under serious pressure from a new kind of threat.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Global blueprint is becoming clearer by the day. With financial backing from a Saudi entertainment group, the league is choosing its targets carefully. Mitchell for her scoring, Jones for her dominance, Cardoso for her reach. This isn't just about building a team. It's about creating a global empire. And the league's silence is as strategic as its actions. No interviews, no official announcements, just a growing trail of elite follows and behind-the-scenes rumors. The WNBA's future may depend on how it responds to this calculated, well-funded challenge that's quickly gaining momentum in plain sight. 3 Indiana Fever players just got dropped hard. Reports say it all went down after a heated confrontation with the coaching staff, and while that story is grabbing headlines, it's only the tip of the iceberg. Because right behind that chaos, there's a new league creeping in. And it's not just showing up, it's threatening to flip the entire structure of women's professional basketball. And if you haven't heard about it yet, you're about to. This is a brand new, Saudi-backed women's basketball league that's been quietly making moves. No flashy campaigns, no press conferences, just a surgical social media trail that has fans and insiders completely locked in. Their whole strategy? Start following elite WNBA stars on Instagram and let the rumors do the rest. And not just any players. We're talking Kelsey Mitchell, Jonquel Jones, Camila Cardoso. Athletes with serious influence. Different skill sets, different backgrounds, different career stages, but all high-caliber, high-visibility names. If you're building a league and you want credibility, this is how you start. That's where things get tense. Because when a new league backed by billions starts tracking your stars, it's not just a compliment. It's a warning. And here's the wild part. The WNBA hasn't said a word. No statements. No reassurances. Nothing. So while the league stays silent, fans have been connecting the dots themselves. The pattern is obvious. Project B isn't casting a wide net. They're handpicking names that could anchor entire franchises. Their short but calculated list of follows tells a story all on its own. These aren't random athletes. They're the faces of women's basketball. And now they're being eyed for a potential exit. And why wouldn't they be? Project B has what every player's been asking for. Money, visibility, and international reach. It's backed by a Saudi-owned entertainment powerhouse with the cash to go toe-to-toe with any sports league. That includes the WNBA, which has been fighting financial headwinds for years. So if you're a top-tier WNBA player making a fraction of what you're worth, and someone shows up with a massive paycheck and a global spotlight, what do? That's the question nobody in the WNBA seems ready to answer. Because this isn't just about a salary increase. It's about value, power, opportunity, and Project B is putting all of that on the table. In a league where players have spent years advocating for better pay, better travel, and basic respect, this new option is showing up like the answer to every frustrated tweet and every long off-season overseas hustle. And that's where the threat really lies. Because this isn't just competition, it's a shift in control. For decades, the WNBA has been the pinnacle of women's basketball in the U.S. and, to a degree, the world. But its growth has been slow, its reach limited, and its resources, frankly, constrained. Now, Project B comes in with the opposite model: global ambitions, financial muscle, and an understanding of how to play the media game without even saying a word. The impact? Immediate. Even before any official signings, the whispers alone are enough to make teams nervous. Coaches, agents, Sponsors. Everyone is watching closely. Because if Project B pulls off what it looks like they're planning to do, the WNBA could face an unprecedented talent drain. And it wouldn't take much. A few major players signing contracts overseas is all it would take to tilt the balance. Once one big name makes the jump, the domino effect begins. The idea becomes reality. The risk becomes worth it. And suddenly, the WNBA's biggest asset, its stars, is no longer guaranteed. That's why these selective social media follows matter. They're not just clues. They're leverage, quiet pressure, a message sent without saying a thing. We're building something. And you're on the list. For players, it's a lifeline. For the WNBA, it's a problem they can't afford to still silence. And that silence is getting louder every day. Because Project B isn't just targeting American players. That's another key to their playbook. They're going global right out the gate. Camila Cardoso, Brazilian. Jonquil Jones, Bahamian. That kind of strategy isn't accidental. It's designed to build a worldwide fan base, not just a U.S. That international focus is what could make Project B explode past the borders the WNBA has never fully broken through. Instead of trying to expand later, Project B is starting with a global map. That means more fans, more media deals, and a broader market appeal from the jump. It also means they can bypass some of the WNBA's most persistent issues. Limited TV coverage, poor scheduling, second-tier marketing. Project B isn't weighed down by that. They're starting fresh, with resources that make bold moves possible. The scariest part for the WNBA? They don't really have an answer for any of this. At least, not yet. Because Project B's biggest advantage isn't just money. It's timing. The WNBA has only just begun to get real traction with fans, media, and sponsors. It's still fighting for legitimacy in the mainstream. So while it's gaining ground, it's also incredibly vulnerable. A disruption now hits harder, hurts deeper, knows it. That's why this all feels so calculated. Following players at different levels of fame and development means they're not just chasing current success. They're planning for the future. Locking in a rising star like Cardoso isn't just a flashy move. It's an investment in longevity. The kind of foresight shows Project B isn't trying to be a one-season gimmick. They're trying to build a real rival. And maybe even a replacement. That's not just a threat to the league. It's a threat to the system, to the sponsors, the media, the brand deals. If Project B creates an attractive enough alternative, the entire hierarchy of professional women's basketball gets rewritten. And right now, that's looking more and more possible. This isn't just an isolated power struggle. It's a global shakeup, and it could reshape the way the sport is structured, marketed, and consumed. From career paths to international tours, the ripple effects would hit every level of the game. The fans? They're already watching, analyzing every follow, scrutinizing every vague tweet, trying to figure out who's about to jump. Because while Project B plays coy, the internet is in full detective mode. And through all of it, the WNBA remains publicly silent. That silence is creating a vacuum, and Project B is filling it with possibility. Right now, it's all speculation, but the signs are there. The outlines are forming. And once the first signing goes public, the entire conversation changes. The whispers become headlines. The theory becomes the reality. So where does that leave us? 3 Indiana Fever players just got cut. Whether that's connected to Project B or not, it's part of the same tension. Players are restless. Opportunities are shifting. And a lot of people are realizing that the league they've trusted for years might not be the only game in town anymore. Because what started as quiet social media moves is now a full-blown power struggle with global consequences. And here's what you can do. Stay locked in. Because the moment this breaks open, you'll want to be in the loop. Like this video. Share it with someone who's been following the drama. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think Project B is targeting next? And don't forget to subscribe because this story, it's just getting started. Let's go even deeper because this story isn't just building, it's escalating. At the surface, you've got 3 Indiana Fever players cut loose after a reported clash with coaches. That's dramatic enough on its own. But what makes it bigger What turns it into a warning shot is when and how it happened. Right as whispers around Project B are getting louder, right as tension is spreading across the WNBA like wildfire, suddenly the Fever start making aggressive moves. That's not just coincidence. That's pressure cracking the surface. Players aren't just playing basketball anymore. They're playing chess with their futures. Every conversation, every decision, every front office meeting has a new shadow looming over it. Project B. And that shadow is growing. Because this isn't just another league popping up and hoping for attention. This is a deliberate, methodical, financially backed power play. Project B isn't begging for recognition. They're curating it. They're following specific players at precise times, knowing that every fan account and sports journalist is going to blow it up online. They don't need billboards. They've got buzz. The kind of buzz money can't buy because it's organic and it's fueled by uncertainty. Hit follow on Kelsey Mitchell. The conversation changed. Not just because Mitchell is a key WNBA player, but because of what she represents. Consistency, skill, star power, and leadership. The kind of player who doesn't make waves just to make noise. So if she's even rumored to be on the Project B radar, it's game on. Then there's Jonquil Jones, a literal MVP. Not just elite, but elite internationally. Born in the Bahamas. Played in Europe. Dominated in the WNBA. Her name being linked, even subtly, to Project B sends one very clear message. We're not here to play small. And Camila Cardoso? That move is even more calculated. She's not a veteran. She's a rising star. Young, gifted, and internationally relevant, with a fan base that stretches far beyond college ball or American courts. Targeting her isn't just about building for now. It's about building for the next generation of fans. So when people say Project B is a threat to the WNBA, they're understating it. This isn't just a threat. It's a fundamental challenge to the league's identity. A slow, creeping dismantling of its competitive edge. And while the WNBA sits back, watching this unfold, Project B is making it crystal clear. The future isn't going to wait around. Now let's talk money, because that's the root of all this. We know Project B is being backed by Saudi investment, and that tells us two things. One, they have the resources to blow traditional sports budgets out of the water. And two, they're not just here for clout. They're here to build something lasting. And with those kinds of resources, they can afford to play the long game. Even if they don't get all the players right away, even if the first season looks experimental, they can outlast the WNBA financially. That's not speculation. That's math. So the question becomes, how long can the WNBA hold its ground if the talent starts walking? Because the WNBA has always been about its players. The personalities, the gameplay, the loyalty. But loyalty only goes so far when the money doesn't match. Players have spent years building the league, advocating for better treatment, pushing for equity, and getting back scraps, relatively speaking. Project B sees that frustration and is cashing in on it. Literally. And that's why this isn't a typical league war. It's personal, it's generational, and it's emotional. You've got players who've sacrificed everything for a league that's only just started to give them what they deserve. Then suddenly, here comes a new opportunity offering triple the pay, international exposure, and creative freedom. What would you do? This isn't betrayal. It's survival. That's the part the WNBA needs to understand. Players jumping ship won't be about ego or greed. It'll be about reclaiming control, about finally seeing their worth reflected in their contracts. And if Project B is the only one offering that, then that's where the stars will go. And they won't go alone, because it only takes one to start the wave. The moment someone breaks ranks and announces a signing with Project B, it becomes real, not a rumor. Not a conspiracy theory. Not a cryptic social media breadcrumb. Real. And then what? How does the WNBA respond? Do they suddenly scramble to match salaries? Do they beg sponsors for emergency funding? Or do they stay silent again and hope it all blows over? Because so far, silence has been their only move. And that silence is starting to look like fear. Think about it. This entire storm has been fueled by nothing but social media follows. No press releases, no interviews, no ad campaigns, just vibes. That's how unstable the current structure is. That's how ripe the league is for disruption. And fans? They're watching closely. You can see in the comment sections, the fan threads, the quote tweets. Everyone's piecing together the puzzle, tracking who's followed next, debating whether a cryptic emoji means a signing. This isn't just a sports story, it's entertainment. It's drama, and it's only getting more intense. Meanwhile, the players have gone quiet too. Not because nothing's happening, but because everything's happening. You don't post through negotiations. You don't spill when you're weighing life-changing decisions. You wait. You plan. You move smart. And that quiet, it's deafening. That's why the Fever story hits so hard. 3 players out just like that. In the middle of this growing Project B tension. Whether it's related or not, it feels symbolic. Like the first crack in the dam. And if that dam breaks, the flood comes with it. Sponsors shift. Fans shift. Viewership shifts. And suddenly, a league that's taken decades to build is competing against a brand new machine with better pay, broader appeal, and the momentum of a viral movement. That's the power of timing. Project B didn't just pick the right players. They picked the right moment. A moment when frustration in the league is high. When players are more aware than ever of their global potential. When fans are actively rooting for change. And that momentum, it's hard to stop once it gets going. So now, the WNBA is left with 2 choices. Step up or step aside. The world's watching. The players are waiting. The fans are ready. And Project B, they made the first move. They're not asking for permission. They're not waiting for approval. They're building something fast. And whether the WNBA responds today, next month, or too late, the game has already changed. And here we are, on the edge of what could be the biggest shakeup women's basketball has ever seen. At this point, there's no denying it. Project B isn't just a side project or some experimental league trying to add variety to the sport. This is a straight-up power play, a direct challenge to the WNBA's authority, legacy, and future. And most chaotic part, it's working without even officially launching yet. That's the power of strategy. Project B isn't making noise. They're letting the silence speak volumes. No announcements, no rosters, just carefully chosen social media follows that spark entire media cycles. They're feeding the frenzy without lifting a finger. That kind of control, that's how you shake institutions. And it's not just fans doing the speculating anymore. This has reached the point where media outlets, players, coaches, everyone is on edge. The entire landscape is shifting, and the WNBA's foundation is looking a little unstable right now. Because how do you defend yourself from a league that hasn't technically done anything, but still has your top stars eyeing that you didn't need to come in guns blazing? They came in with precision, with targets. And those targets are players who carry the weight of the league on their shoulders. If even one of them jumps ship, it sends a message. The future is no longer here. That's the existential threat the WNBA is now facing. Let's be clear, this is not about just attracting players with money. If it were, that alone wouldn't be enough. What Project B is offering is deeper, the promise of something better. A global platform, financial respect, more control over personal branding. A league that's built with the modern athlete in mind, not one trying to catch up after years of neglect. And when you look at how long WNBA players have had to settle, there's no other word for it. Settle for less, you start to understand why this disruption is hitting so hard. The players have spoken out for years about salaries, about treatment, about flying commercial while their NBA counterparts enjoy charter jets and 5-star perks. They've been patient, they've been loyal, and now, when a new league shows up and quietly offers everything they've been asking for, it's not just tempting, it's validating. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because it's not just Project B making moves, it's the players finally being in a position to make choices that benefit them. For the first time in a long time, they're not stuck between staying loyal to a league that's slow to change and burning out from constant international offseason play just to earn a decent living. Project B has cracked open a new path. And look at what that's doing already. Even without a public roster, the buzz is shifting. Players are posting cryptic things online. Fans are glued to every new follow. Agents are having conversations that would have been unthinkable a year ago. That's what happens when you introduce real options. And the WNBA still hasn't responded. That silence is starting to sound a lot like a lack of a plan. Maybe they didn't think this was real. Maybe they didn't believe Project B would have this kind of influence. Or maybe they just thought their players wouldn't dare walk away. But when you look at the signs, how carefully Project B has picked its targets, how global the scope is, how financially powerful the backers are, it becomes clear this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment idea. This was years in the making. And it's happening now because the moment is ripe. The WNBA's slow progress made room for this. And the sad irony? The league's recent gains, more coverage, rising viewership, corporate interest, are all being overshadowed by a new challenger that hasn't even played a single game. That's how vulnerable the current system is. Because at the end of the day, talent drives everything. And if the talent walks, what's left? It doesn't take every player. It doesn't have to. All it takes is one Kelsey Mitchell, one Jonquil Jones, one Camila Cardoso, one high-profile signing to turn rumor into reality, one contract to shift loyalty, one defection to inspire the next. And that's why every day without a response from the WNBA feels like another step closer to collapse. They don't need to panic publicly. They don't need to start a social media war. But at the very least, players and fans deserve something. A plan, a vision, a sign that the league sees what's happening and is preparing for the impact. Because whether the first signing drops tomorrow or next month, the trajectory has already changed. There's no going back. And Project B knows it. They've taken a scalpel to the WNBA's vulnerabilities, exposing what everyone has whispered about for years. That players deserve better. That growth has been too slow. That loyalty doesn't pay the bills. And now they've offered an alternative. It's not just a threat, it's a turning point. The next few weeks? Critical. If the WNBA doesn't act soon, they risk being remembered as the league that could have been, but wasn't ready when it mattered most. So what's your take? Is this the beginning of the end, or just the start of a new rivalry? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you're tracking every move like the rest of us, and make sure you subscribe. Because when this breaks open, and it will, you're going to want to be here for the fallout.